started, and I'm out of here.
Okay, well, welcome everyone. I have a couple of readings this morning. One of them is from Ernest Holmes and the Science of Mind, and the other one is from a woman named Laura Vesta. So I'm going to read the Science of Mind quote first, and then I'll read the Laura Vesta, which has to do with your gifts, and that was perfect, Scott. So if you just allow yourself to relax and take a couple of breaths. Anchor yourself in this time, in this place. From the Science of Mind, our minds should swing from inspiration to action, from contemplation to accomplishment, from prayer to performance. This would be a well-balanced existence. Okay, and from Laura Vesta. Begin every day anew. Don't make your beginning based on money, on things, on the fear that saturates each step outside the norm. Let the world speak through you. Remember, you are the offering. Your life is your gift. You have a gift, many gifts, and your work is to share them. This is everyone's work, to allow their gifts and to share them.
Make me a channel of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me bring your love. Where there is injury, your pardon, Lord. And where there's doubt, true faith in you.
And as we come together this morning for the sacred part of this service, I know that we are all in the divine right order, the right space, the right place. I know that the Spirit of God moves through each and every one of us. And I know that as all of us come together as a whole, that energy is magnified, that it flows through us and out into our world. It allows the energy of spirit to flow forth as peace, as light, and as connection. I know that we are all connected. And as we listen to the words of Reverend Elisha today, I know we will hear the right message for us. And so I know that this part of the service will unfold in its right and perfect way. And so it is.
O Master, grant that I may never seek so much to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love within my soul. Make me a channel of your peace. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned, in giving of ourselves that we receive, and in dying that we are born to eternal life. Make me a channel of your peace.
Thank you very much, Michelle and Jackson. That was perfect. This morning, I'm excited because of our guest speaker. I wanted to share with you a little bit about him before he starts. He is one of our youngest, well, not youngest, newest ministers in the Centers for Spiritual Living. Just last month, he passed his panels and stepped out as the Reverend Elisha Christopher Hayden Barrios. He's also been, he was the recipient of the Regeneration Scholarship for the Holmes Institute, which helped him along his way. And he served as spiritual director to the Launching Pad, which is, he could tell you what that is, but I know that it was a living situation for young adults based in the science of mind. And those are in California, Oregon, and Utah. He's also a master trainer and a trainer of trainees in social artistry. I got to know him at a Selimar. I listened to this young man speak, looking at him on stage and thinking, wow, this is amazing. I mean, I just really fell in love with his consciousness. And we sort of had a mutual admiration society going on at a Selimar because both of us did a good job. And I just knew I wanted to share him with you. So I am going to, I'm asking you to put your screen on speaker view so you just have him. Everybody else should be muted. And you're going to have to unmute yourself, Reverend Eli, and take it away. Are you there?
I had unmuted and then I got muted again. Hello.
Oh, sorry.
So, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. I always like to begin by just taking a few breaths together. So if you will, exhale first, and we're going to breathe together 3 times. So out breath, and then breathe in. And let go. Take another deep breath in. And let go. One more together, breath, breathing in. And letting go. And so this month, across CSL, we have this theme of examining faith. And week by week, our centers have been moving through this conversation of what is faith, how do we experience faith in this philosophy and in these times specifically. And this week, the topic is just do it, which I was contemplating, and I realized for myself is really about spontaneity as a principle of our faith and the way that the creative process unfolds through us. And I want to start by actually talking about these shared themes that we have across CSL and that our centers have been engaging in for the last couple years. Because I'm a big fan of Lynn McTaggart's work, who wrote The Intention Experiment and the book The Power of 8, which is about the power of collective consciousness. And that when any group of people focus on the same thing at the same time, there's something greater that emerges from our collective focus. And that something greater emerges spontaneously due to our collective attention. And I think of this as the power of 2 or more, where, we've heard the words of Jesus that says, where 2 or more are gathered, there I am also. And I believe that means that, again, whenever 2 or more individuals bring their consciousness together, something greater than the sum of the parts becomes available. And a couple years ago, when we in CSL sort of agreed to begin speaking on shared themes across our communities, I said, I think something interesting is going to happen as we begin to engage in this process. And these themes have been created by groups of people coming together and visioning and dropping into spiritual practice and coming together. And then the process we know of visioning is about listening to whatever spontaneously emerges and not editing it, not fighting it, not trying to figure it out, just saying this is what's come through. And then I've watched these themes unfold this year. And we talk about 2020 being the year of clear vision, and most of these themes were written a year ago. Most of these themes came through groups coming together saying, what do we need to hear in a year on this week, in this month? And almost week by week throughout this year, the prescribed themes that are the suggested themes that have come through us have been mind-blowingly on point for me. In the week that the nation was marching and chanting George Floyd's last words, "I can't breathe," our suggested theme was just breathe. And, you know, as all of the upheaval in the country has come up, this whole last month was all about looking at diversity and race and how we explore, you know, these themes have been week by week just on point. And it's almost been miraculous to me to realize that these ideas came through this cultivated practice of listening for spontaneity. And that's what visioning is to me. And then through the power of our collective attention, we've been able to hear that spontaneous still voice, that still small voice that whispers into all of us, that's actually always there, to really give us a guiding template as to where we need to be placing our attention in these days. And this idea of cultivated spontaneity is really fascinating to me. When we talk about faith and science of mind, we're not talking about putting our ideas in some sort of unseen, invisible ideas or in some sort of fantastic mythology. In science of mind, when we talk about faith, we're talking about something that we can demonstrate, that we can experience, that we can watch the cause-effect nature of. And over the course of what I like to call science of mind experiments, we can over time demonstrate to ourselves that this philosophy does work. And I don't know if Reverend Angelica shared this story this month, but Reverend Edward, our spiritual leader for CSL, sent out a video earlier in the month, and he told this wonderful story that I want to share with you. And it's about a group of people standing on the edge of a canyon, and there's a tightrope stretched across the canyon and a tightrope walker. And the tightrope walker looks to the audience and says, "Here I go," and walks out across the canyon on the tightrope and walks back. And then looks to everyone and says, "How many of you believe that I can walk across this rope?" Well, everyone had just seen it, so they all raised their hands. Of course, we believe it, we've seen it, we believe it. And then so he grabs a wheelbarrow and he pushes the wheelbarrow out onto the tightrope and back and asks the audience, "How many of you believe that I can push a wheelbarrow out across the canyon?" And they all raised their hand. So next his assistant climbs in the wheelbarrow and he pushes his assistant out over the canyon on the rope in the wheelbarrow and back. And then he turns to the audience and said, "Who would like to go next?" No one got in. There's a huge difference in believing what we see and taking a step based on faith. We have a philosophy that does tell us that sometimes there's a disparity between what we see and what we have deep faith in. And we're living in this world that wants to continuously throw at us all of these potentially false truths or distorted truths. And there's so much that we can potentially be believing in based on what we see that might convince us that what we believe or what we have faith in may or may not be so. And yet, the science of mind tells us that the law is perfect, that these philosophy that we believe in is giving us a perfect universe, a perfect manifestation coming directly from the mind of God itself. And I had this aha a while back that the universe that we experience, the reality that we're participating in, is perfect in that it is a perfect reflection of our collective attention. And so even when it looks wrong, it's happening perfectly because it's reflecting back to us exactly what is within us. And none of us exists within a vacuum. So I really believe that the reality that we see, the reality that we live in, is in a sense a projection of our overlapping collective beliefs and what we are all putting our attention on. And then from that, the universe creates spontaneously. And I believe that in order for us to participate in this co-creative process that we call science of mind, that we call co-creation, that we call life itself, is to practice this sense of cultivated spontaneity. Ralph Waldo Emerson, I'm a huge Emerson fan. Emerson tells us to, in Self-Reliance, to be spontaneous, to be a place where the universe is just happening, and not to base our answers, our responses on our religion or our political party or our education or our history, but to be a moment that is bubbling up in the universe. Cosmologists now say that the universe is foaming forth with possibility. Let us be places where foaming forth of spontaneous possibility is happening. But that spontaneity does require cultivation, because uncultivated spontaneity is impulsiveness. And we're watching a world unfold in front of us that is a lot of impulsive, reactive consciousness. And that reaction comes from unhealed places. That impulsiveness comes from our distorted sense of self. But I believe that the point of spiritual practice, of meditation, of spiritual community, of our studying in science of mind, of our classes, of engaging in spiritual mind treatment, working with practitioners, these are all things about cultivating a mind that is moving with the flow of the universe. You know, I love the story of the Buddha's awakening because it's all about someone who is trying very hard to wake up. And he starves himself to death, and that doesn't do it. You know, he's moving through the deepest aesthetic practices, and he was a prince before that, and he lived this lavish experience. And my favorite part of the story of the Buddha's awakening is when he finally kind of gives up and goes to sit down under the Bodhi tree. And in the texts, it says he finally just sat for the purpose of sitting. Not to try to meditate, not to try to wake up, not to try to attain something. And it was when he finally gave up that he woke up. And it happened in a spontaneous moment. But only and as a result of the fact that he had been cultivating a deep, deep, deep practice for so long that had sunk in and become so ingrained that then that became what showed up and unfolded as his life. And I really believe that there is something that is seeking to express in that manner through each one of us. That, you know, in Science of Mind, we say that we are the universe, that we are God, that we are the all, the one expressing. And I believe that each one of us, in a sense, is a refraction or a reflection of the one. That each one of us is a particular pattern, a particular lens, a particular angle through which the light of God is trying to show through. And I've been having this conversation with a number of people recently that I really believe that there are particular avenues, particular ideas or ways that the universe is trying and seeking to express through each one of us. And that it's the patterns that continuously show up in our lives that are actually the indicator of what's wanting to come through in a bigger way. And that oftentimes it's our challenges, oftentimes it's our struggles, oftentimes it's the things that we resist that are actually the place where spirit is trying to emerge through us. And that it's about beginning to do the deep cultivation and the spiritual practice and being in the process of uncovering our true self so that then it can come through spontaneously. You know, Emma Curtis Hopkins talks about the self as sort of, you know, the dirty window, you know, and that all of our life experience just kind of builds up all this stuff on top of it. And that really what we're here to do is just to try to clean off all the stuff off the window so that the true self can then just come through. I used to be absolutely terrified to speak in front of people. It was something I could not do. And that all through my education, through school, through college, through, you know, I think I failed speech about 5 times my first few years in college because I could not get through a talk. I could not show up to a class to speak in front of a group of people. And I would go to try to give a talk or something, and everything in my body would freeze up. And I would have almost panic attacks. And something happened along the way where someone in my life told me that the brain, doesn't know the difference between fear and excitement. And I had to sort of turn this story on its head and tell myself, you know what? I'm not terrified to speak in front of people. I'm so overwhelmingly excited to speak in front of people that there's something that wants to come through me, and it's the fighting of that causes that sense of fear and overwhelm. And in Science of Mind, we give that lovely little acronym that fear is false evidence appearing real, or forgetting everything's all right. I like to say that faith, I have a little acronym for faith, and I say that faith is freely allowing it to happen. That participating with faith is about being in the flow, about recognizing that the intelligent truth, the universe itself, is that which is seeking to express through us in every moment. And when I found the ability to surrender to that thing, I realized that the overwhelming panic and fear that was happening inside of my body was actually the energy that wanted to come out of my mouth. And I have been, for the last 10 to 12 years, every talk I've given has been a spontaneous act of creation. I have an idea of where I'm going to go, but I don't have notes. I don't have a script. There's no bullet points. And I've found that it's not, there's this almost letting go completely and being in a sense of knowing that there is a power for good in this universe that is greater than I am, and it is that one who is going to speak when I open my mouth. And that process for me has been about being willing to stand in the fear with complete and total faith. That there's this false evidence that I might not have something to say. You know, sometimes I lay awake at night before a talk telling myself, I don't know what I'm going to say. What could I possibly tell people? How can I have anything to offer? And then the next day I go up and something comes out that I even have to listen to later because I often don't know what's being said as it's coming out of my mouth. And that to me is about flow. It's about being in the spontaneous nature of co-creation with the universe. And that's actually how all of the universe is happening in every moment. Seeds grow, clouds form, rain happens. It's all about spontaneous unfolding of the laws of the universe. And so what if we became, each one of us, one who is beginning and continuing always to practice being the universe unfolding. And I have been an incredible procrastinator most of my life. I've also had a lot of anxiety most of my life. I think these things might be related. Because procrastination is about stopping the flow. Procrastination is about feeling that something is wanting to come through right now and not doing it. And in not doing it, blocking the energy. And in blocking the energy, it gets stuck in the body. And that became anxiety for me. And I really believe that much of what we experience, and Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes will tell us this, that much of what we experience as discord in our mind or in our body is us blocking that spontaneous energy, the movement of the universe that is seeking to express through us in every moment. And that when we second guess ourselves, when we doubt ourselves, when we tell ourselves, oh, who am I? Who am I to say that? Or how can I be the one to do that thing? Or whatever it is that we small talk, self-talk, and bring ourselves down, we stop and we block the flow of the universe, and then it lodges in our mind or body as disease, as discord, as depression, as whatever we turn it into within ourselves. And I believe that the purpose of meditation is to teach us just to stop and let go. It's not about trying to stop ourselves from thinking. It's not about trying to clear our mind and make nothing happen. It's just about sitting and breathing and stopping and allowing ourselves to let go of being in control for just a few minutes and just let it unfold. You know, I believe that spiritual mind treatment, the way that we teach spiritual mind treatment in Science of Mind is a process of learning teaching a process of learning how to let go. It's teaching a process of how to create spontaneously in the moment. Here's a quick 5-step recipe. You know, God is, I am, I know, speak some gratitude, let it go. And those 5 steps then become a way that we as practitioners and ministers and speakers of truth in this philosophy have trained ourselves to spontaneously speak truth, to not think ahead of time, what am I going to say? What's my prayer going to be about? But to just allow the steps to be the guide that allow us to move in a sense and channel energy through our words. And I believe that that is what Science of Mind is actually calling from us all the time, is to be in this, what I like to call a consistent, conscious effort to let go. You know, it's that sort of Zen, Emersonian, Taoist, Wu Wei kind of try to not try. Try really hard to stop trying. And the more we engage in that process, the more we open ourselves to actually stop trying. It's sort of a weird dichotomy, you know, and I believe that that is part of the nature of metaphysics, of Science of Mind, of this practice, is it takes, I was listening to something the other day where someone was talking about Wu Wei, about this idea of moving with the flow. And they described learning how to play the guitar. And that this person had been practicing 4 hours a day for 10 years. And after about a decade of this kind of practice, suddenly they'd be playing the guitar, and then their fingers would just start to do something without any thought. And something would play itself on the guitar that they didn't know how they did that. You know, I know many artists who, when we go to paint or create something, it's not about trying to force an image onto a canvas or force an idea into form. It's about being with a flow, being in a process that we've practiced and cultivated over time, that we've learned how to just let come through. And so that's the way that's the way I want us, myself, anyone who hears me, to learn how to practice the Science of Mind. Think of it as learning to play the guitar and being in the ritual of it, being in the practice of it, being in the continuous cultivation of it. Because when we do that regularly, we literally program a brain that is then available to create spontaneously, to see the universe spontaneously, to wake up in a moment and see the true nature of reality. And that is how awakening happens. That is how deep creation and co-creation with the universe happens. It's not something that we can force, but it's something that we have to practice so that eventually it can happen on its own. And so this idea of being spontaneous, of cultivating spontaneity, of trying not to try, is this really this invitation to find a way to just begin to do it. To just do it, whatever it is. In your life, there is something within each one of us, within you and within me, there is something that is seeking to express through each one of us. And I have this sort of personal mythos that I believe, that I phrase this way, that I believe that each one of us are gods in waiting, that each one of us are new archetypes waiting to be born. And whatever the base pattern that spirals around in your life, that's the gift that is seeking to be expressed through you. And that may show up as the thing that everyone in your world seems to project onto you. It could show up as the thing that you struggle with the most. It could show up as a thing that you're most inspired to participate in, or fight against, or create. But each one of us has a something that is continuously seeking to come through us. And I want to invite myself to just do it, to stop second guessing, to stop the small talk, to stop telling ourselves, who am I? Who am I but the universe itself? Who am I but 14 billion years of creation waiting to unleash itself into the universe? Who am I but the laws of evolution and the life of the earth itself, here right now on purpose? And that whatever it is that's seeking to come through you, let it be. Begin to be it. Begin to do it. Begin to let it happen. Practice it. Become a space for it. Cultivate it. Try to just be in it. Allow yourself to be in and of the nature that is continuously seeking to express through you. And then come together in spiritual community with other individuals who are also in this process, engaging in this process, because as we know, when two or more like minds get together, something greater becomes available. I realized recently that I think that that's why we are it's so much part of the science of mind philosophy to pray with a practitioner. It's because the power of two or more. When two people come together and hold a thought or an idea, we make room for something else to spontaneously emerge. And that when we hold our truth for and with each other, we make room where the other person may not be able to believe we hold the belief. And then we allow this sort of dance of co-creation to happen between us. And I know that when we come together in practice, when we practice surrendering together, when we do visioning together, when we pray together, when we engage in spiritual community together, that this process becomes easier. You know, I often say that our spiritual communities are the place where we really need to practice seeing God. You know, one of my main practices is I always ask this question. Whenever someone or something comes into my mind, the question is, how is this God? And so we can practice that a lot easier with each other in our spiritual community when we know the other person might be asking that question as well. It may not be as easy when we turn on the television and see certain, leaders around the world speaking, or when we engage with a family member or someone of an opposing political party. It's a little harder to be like, how is this God again? When we're frustrated, when we're challenged, when we feel that energy of no, that again brings the block. And so we have to practice with each other this perception, this question of looking for God in the experience. Because as we know, what we look for looks for us. What we place our attention on, we see more of. And so if we continue to be in the practice and in the cultivation of this question, how is this God? of looking to participate in the collective mind and co-create with another individual, to look within ourselves and look at the patterns that keep showing up in our lives and saying, what is it that's seeking to express and come through me that I must stop blocking, that I need to look at? And what we are willing to put our energy into is going to reflect back at us what we are putting our faith in. Our reactions, our emotions, all of these things are reflecting the true nature of our faith. And so begin a practice of cultivating, of looking deeply into the nature of the universe and feeling what it is that is seeking to express through you. And begin to be a place where the spirit of life is happening spontaneously, out of co-creation and out of a responsive universe, not out of impulse and unhealed broken places. Because we're looking at a world right now that is wanting us, evoking from us our lowest impulses and reactions. And I believe that in order for us to bring about this vision that we have been claiming in CSL for many years of a world that works for all, we must be the ones who are willing to look above the level of circumstances, to look above all that seems to be appearing in front of us, and look for a higher truth, and begin to cultivate individual minds that are trained to respond and that are prepared to be spontaneous, as opposed to reactive and impulsive and just being dragged around by circumstance, condition, and situation. Let us be the ones who continuously cultivate and participate in building minds that are able to see and look for and question and ask for the nature of the universe to show up in our lives. And let us be the ones who help bring those around us into new perspective and new ways of participating with life. And so this week, I just want to invite all of us to look within and to really begin to just ask the question, what is it that is continuously seeking to come through me? That if I let it come through, would truly be a spontaneous act of co-creation with the universe. And so if you will, take a deep breath in. And if it's comfortable, close your eyes. As we continue to just be together in this moment of awareness, bringing our collective mind to the place where we recognize that there is one seamless presence that is living and breathing throughout the entirety of the universe. It is this one who is unfolding across all of time and space. It is this one that is participating in all realities, in all potentials, in all choice points, across all timelines, past, present, and future, God and only God. That the universal consciousness, that the power of participation, that the co-creative nature of all that is seamlessly interwoven into every element of existence. And that means that each one of us is a place where the spontaneity of the universe, where the conscious co-creation is happening, that each one of us is being breathed by the spirit of life, that each one of us is the universe in miniature, that each one of us is evolution unfolding, that each one of us is life happening right here and right now, and that the nature of the universe is to be foaming forth spontaneously in every moment with new possibilities, with new ways of being and doing, with new ways of seeing and knowing itself. And that each one of us is a place where that is happening right now. And so let us together stand in a knowingness that we continuously wash the windows of our soul so that it is the true nature of our spontaneous truth that can continuously come forth as our lives, as our choices, as our votes, as our purchases, as our thoughts, as our responses, as what we see, as what we hear, as what we say. Let each one of us be a place where the where the power and the magnificence of this glorious co-creative universe is happening in front of us in every moment. Let each one of us be a place where demonstration of truth takes place. Let each one of us get out of our own way enough to let the nature of the universe do what it does best and flow through us. And so let us together be in co-creative celebration that the nature of the universe is always happening, that it is always reflecting us back to us, that the world around us is a perfect reflection of our collective consciousness. And how wonderful to know that each one of us is part of the collective. And so as we change our minds, as we choose a higher perspective, as we look for greater thoughts, as we cultivate an ability to be in co-creation with the ever-flowing spontaneous nature of the universe, we bring forth a greater powerful truth into that collective mind, so that that can then be what begins to reflect back at us, so that we can be in the conscious co-creation and participation of the emergence of a world that works for everyone. And so let us together remember that there is a power for good in this universe that is greater than we are, that is ever and always seeking to express through each one of us. And so let us get out of its way and let it do so as easily as it breathes us and beats our hearts. Let us allow the universe to foam forth with possibility as our lives. And so let us be the spontaneous nature of the universe, co-creating, unfolding, and happening right here and right now. And so it is.
Thank you so much, Eli. Wow.
Thank you.
Again, I'm falling in love with your consciousness. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So let's go back.